Alright, today we're doing something a little bit special. Lamborghini has an all-new GT3 car, the Temerario GT3, and RaceRoom is the only sim that has it. That caught my attention. Thought it might be worth checking out RaceRoom. Of course, this car is part of an all-new DTM 2026 DLC that's available, and along with it comes some really interesting updates. So, quick bit of background. This Temerario GT3 is the replacement for the Huracán GT3 Evo 2. And Lamborghini's making a big deal out of the fact that this is their first GT3 car developed fully in-house by Squadra Corse. It's made its real-world debut at the 12 Hours of Sebring this last year. So it's not vaporware. This is a proper race car that's already gone and done the hardest endurance race in the United States. Underneath, it starts life as the road-going Temerario, a twin-turbo 4-liter V8. But for GT3, all the hybrid bits are gone, because the rules don't allow them. And instead, you get smaller race turbos, a 6-speed sequential gearbox, rear-wheel drive, and a balance of performance-limited power in a mid-500 horsepower range. So it's still a Lamborghini, it's still angry, but it's tuned to live in a mixed GT3 field, not to win drag races against hypercars. As far as drivability, I give this car high marks. I'm still acclimating to it, trying to get a feel for it, but it drives pretty nice. It's definitely, as advertised, race-ready machine that feels compliant, feels ready to go out and do things. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this measures up in other sims. The thing that really stands out to me about this car is that it was clearly built to be raced, not just photographed. Lamborghini talks about serviceability, quick-release bodywork, the chassis rework for endurance racing, modular underfloor pieces that teams can swap out without tearing half the car apart. That's the kind of detail you only get when the people designing it are thinking about 12-hour and 24-hour races first and road cars second. So I have always been a Lambo fan. I like the sound that they make, and that's what makes this car a little bit different. Traditionally, you had either the V12 or the V10 sound coming from Lambos. This is a twin-turbocharged flat 8 that is a unique note. And you probably noticed from the out of car, it's not a dominating note. Like usually, you know, with the V12s or the V10s, they just sounded intimidating in that very unique Lamborghini way. This 8 doesn't sound that impressive, at least to me. But it is that era of squeezing a lot of horsepower out of a tinier motor. This is just a 4-liter. And of course, the street car is gargantuanly fast because it is a plug-in hybrid. It's got the engine, but it's also got electric motors in it that drive the car overall to over 900 horsepower, which is pretty gargantuan. Now let's talk about the weird part, RaceRoom being first. If you had told me the new Lamborghini GT3 will hit RaceRoom before iRacing, LMU, AMS2, I'd have probably raised an eyebrow. But that's exactly what happened. RaceRoom is the first sim to ship the Temerario GT3 as part of their DTM 2026 pack and summer update. To me, that says two things. First, Lamborghini and their partners clearly had the car's data and race program mature enough, early enough, that a sim studio could build a believable representation without waiting years. So this platform is serious from day one. It's not a we'll figure it out later GT3. Second, maybe more interesting, RaceRoom is clearly leaning harder into modern licensed race content again. They've lined this car up with their DTM content, they've pushed out multiple new GT3s, and they've staked a claim. If you want to drive the new Lamborghini GT3 right now, this is where you do it. In a crowded sim market, being first with something like this actually matters. From a sim racer's point of view, this is kind of fun. RaceRoom suddenly becomes the reference for how the Temerario GT3 feels, how the turbo V8 delivers torque, how the car behaves on the brakes, how stable or sketchy it is in traffic. Until the other sims catch up, if you want to build your mental model of this car as a driver, RaceRoom's where you go. And I'll be honest, that alone is probably enough to drag me back into RaceRoom for a fresh look. I've had my share of frustrations with online racing across different titles, but when a sim is the only place you can drive a brand new factory GT3 car from Lamborghini, it's the kind of thing that gets me to fire it back up, even if it's just for some AI racing to see what the car is before jumping online. Now first, the bad. So I had some bad experience with some intentional wrecking in some online races that I drove with RaceRoom, and kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth in terms of online racing. And some of the wrecking was intentional. There was also a skill factor issue in some of the races that I tried to run, and also just a numbers game. There weren't very many well-populated races in US times when I, being a West Coaster in the US, would find people online wanting to race in RaceRoom. I think that the demographic for this title is primarily EMEA-based, so that could have a lot to do with the fact that I just didn't find good experience there. Also, too, triple support's a little bit weird. They do have triple support, but only if you're using something like NVIDIA Surround to do your projection. If you're trying to do independent screen projection, you're kind of out of luck. And that's unfortunate, because that's not the way I roll. So I'm stuck when I drive this, driving at single screen, which is suboptimal given the fact that I invested in 3 screens. I want to use them all, but I want to use them my way, not the way the game developer wants me to. So take that for what it is. That's my bias. Cool thing about this release, as far as just general improvements, I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff that's improved, and I looked at the list, but I'm not really remembering all of it. But the coolest part of it is the new HUD elements. One of the biggest drawbacks of RaceRoom was if you wanted a good HUD, you had to use an external tool, which could sometimes kind of spaz out on you in the middle of a race, leaving you without good information. That was a really botched chicane there. But the updates are actually quite good. I like them quite a bit. It's giving you more updated, more modernized information as you're driving, and so the HUD elements are much improved. And one of the cooler things is that if you pull in and stop somewhere, if we press M as the default bind key, we get overlay here where we can actually turn on and off various aspects of this. So you could turn off the standings if you didn't want to see your standings, and so when you come back in, hit M again, that's now gone. So that's useful in that you can, move things around, put things where you want, and that's a nice change considering how difficult this was to actually manage in the default before. So big picture, the Temerario GT3 is a new direction for Lamborghini. An all-new V8 GT3 platform built in-house, tested hard, and already racing for real. In RaceRoom, snagging it first isn't an accident. It's a sign they're still very much in the game when it comes to modern, relevant race content. If you're into GT3 racing, or you're just curious what Lamborghini's next customer car feels like, this might be one of those rare cases where a single piece of content is good enough reason to dust off a sim you haven't driven in a while. So I hope you've had fun. Hope this has been informative. Definitely hope maybe you'll give this a go. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for joining. We'll see you in the next one. Bye now.
Spaß mache Rennsport.